Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Demond and I'll be representing the library today. I'm a reference and instruction librarian here at Wentworth, and today we're going to talk about some best practices leveraging library resources and services. Now, on this first slide, I've included some contact information. If you have questions specific to certain resources, research inquiries, things of that nature, please email the reference librarians at ref@wit.edu. If you have questions about putting things on Course Reserve, if you have questions about potentially needing to access material, maybe you're having trouble accessing links or things like that, please contact Access Services or the Course Reserve's email on the screen. Oh, I will say if you have questions about requesting materials, perhaps you need something to be purchased for one of your classes, that would be a reference question. Either way, whatever question you have, we'll make sure to get you to the right person. But just know that we're here for anything that you might need. So right now I'm going to turn off my video so we can focus on the presentation, and I will put up contact information again at the end. All right, let's get started. So today we're going to talk about finding relevant resources here at the Wentworth Library, specifically electronic resources. As we move to a fully online summer semester, that's what we'll focus on today is electronic resources. Additionally, we'll talk about accessing those resources from an off-campus location. We'll also talk about some library services specifically geared towards faculty, including information about course reserves, reference services that are currently available, instruction that is currently available, and a little bit about copyright. We'll also talk about how to request non-Wentworth materials. If you need something that we do not have, we can most likely get it for you, and I'll show you how. Lastly, we'll talk about actually sharing library resources in Blackboard and the best way to do that, and how to contact us if you have further questions. Okay, at this time, you should see the library website, which is library.wit.edu. As promised, I'll talk about how to find the best resources for you and your students. So the first thing I always tell people is to always search the library catalog first. So if you're looking for articles, certain book titles, maybe you're looking for streaming video, anything, really anything, the first place I would tell you to look and to tell your students to look would be the library catalog. That's the whole of our collection for the most part. Now, if you are looking for a specific database, maybe you're looking for Avery Index or JSTOR, just to name a few, you would go to Research and then Online Resources. This will give you our A to Z list of all of the databases and online resources that we subscribe to. So if you wanted to search within Access Engineering only, that's how you would access that. A couple of resources, some library faves that I did want to point out that you might not be aware of is the first one is the New York Times. So if you go under N, we do have full access to the New York Times for you and your students. So right here at the bottom, there is a create an account link. So please click on that and follow the directions. I encourage your students to do so as well. If you do have an existing account, they do need to be renewed once a year. So if your 1-year mark is coming up, make sure you renew your account. Another resource I wanted to point out under K is Kanopy. So Kanopy, and also if you go under F for Films on Demand, these two resources are really great for streaming video. So if you want to include video clips in your online teaching toolkit, please check out Films on Demand and Kanopy. I also wanted to point out our list of research guides that we have. We have subject guides for each major. So if you go to Research and Subject Guides, you will find a guide for your discipline. So for instance, if you are in computer science and networking, there is a guide specifically for that. And what these guides do is include all the most relevant resources compiled by our subject librarian experts, basically as a kind of one-stop shop for your students or for you. do some research. But we also have, if you go back to research, we also have course guides. So we've got a couple of, we've got guides for all different types of courses. So if you're teaching a class this semester or in future semesters, we can make a course guide specific to your needs. So here's an example of one where our librarian put together information about choosing a precedent, which was their assignment, and also the types of resources that would be best to start with. So these are really great resources for your students to use if you have a specific project or assignment that you want them to be able to research. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the library homepage, and I will show you all how to access some of these resources that I've talked about off campus. So the first thing you can do is search actually in the catalog. So I'm going to just do coronavirus as my topic. And what you will likely see is this yellow banner at the top that says, "Hello guest, log in for full access." Make sure you log in, because this will ensure that you get your full text access as a Wentworth faculty member, and that students have full text access as well. So I clicked on that. I no longer see that banner. You might be required to enter your WIC credentials. So it might say log in for full access, and then it might shoot you through the Wentworth proxy and ask you to log in again. That's totally fine. But either way, you should end up here and have full text access. So if your students are if your students have trouble accessing resources on the library catalog, that might be one issue that they're having. So make sure you're logged in. Additionally, if we go back to the library homepage, we have an off-campus access bookmarklet. So if you go under the quick access toolbar, you'll see this tab that says off-campus access to library resources. If you click on that, you will be directed to this page, which walks you through installing what we call the proxy bookmarklet. As you can see, I actually have it up here on my bookmarks bar. I've installed it previously. And what that does is, if you start at any other internet resource other than the library website, perhaps you found an article on Excelsior or Elsevier that you liked, or perhaps someone found something on Google Scholar that they clicked on, they're not sure if Wentworth has access to it, you can just click on this bookmarklet, and what it will do is it will refresh the page through the Wentworth server as if we were on campus with Wi-Fi access, and it will refresh the page. So if you're on Elsevier, you refresh it, and it may say that, okay, yes, Wentworth has access to it. It also might refresh the page and say, we do not have access to this resource, in which case you can contact the library and we can try and get that resource for you. It's just another way to access materials if you don't start at the library webpage. Okay, so moving on, I'll go back to the library homepage. So we talked about finding resources, we talked about accessing resources. I also want to share some services specific to faculty that are available at this time. So on our library homepage, you will see the red banner, and highlighted in yellow, it says Library and Online Learning Resources. If you click on that, this is actually one of those guides that I mentioned earlier. Library staff has compiled this guide for all of the Wentworth community, but as you'll see, there is a specific tab for faculty, managers, employees, etc. So a couple of things I will just point out are library reference services. So we are still offering online reference assistance for you and your students. And here's some information if you want to access us by email or contact us by chat. This is one of our newest features that we're really excited about. So we have live chat there. Additionally, we've got library instruction sessions. So even though we're not on campus, the library instruction team is ready to teach anything, research, help, etc. for your students. So just like we would on campus, we can come to your virtual classroom and teach a session on whatever it is that you'd like to focus on, citations, maybe a specific database and resources, etc. So please know that we are here for you. Another couple of things just to point out is there's a tab on free e-textbooks that you might find useful, maybe to use in some of your classes. But there's also the online strategies for faculty tab, which we will talk about really quick. There's some information here about course reserves. So again, even though we're not on campus, we can still put electronic texts and articles and such for your students on Course Reserve so they can find everything that they need for their course in one place. So please, if you want to put something on Course Reserve, even if we don't have it, if you need it purchased for your class, please click here, please email us. It's also Course Reserves, I believe, at wit.edu to inquire more about Course Reserves. If I may, I'm just gonna bop back to the library homepage for a second. And we also have the Course Reserve button right here under Quick Access. Okay, heading back. We also have some resources under the Faculty tab about transitioning to remote instruction, some information about open educational resources that you might want to include, and also copyright information. So the library, although we are not lawyers, we cannot provide legal advice. We can help provide legal information that might help you understand what the ins and outs of copyright are at this current moment in time. So if you need to know if you can put something on Blackboard or not, we can at least help you make that decision, or at least help give you the information that will inform your decision. All right. So moving on, we're going to go back to the library homepage. So again, that library research guide and resources guide is right here at the top for you all to access. I want to quickly go over how we can get you materials and your students if we don't have them here at the library right now. Again, we're only doing electronic materials at this current time. But if you have questions about physical materials and other things, please, contact a librarian. We'll make sure to answer your question. So if you go to services, the first one I'll point out is interlibrary loan. So on interlibrary loan, this means if you find an article, perhaps in our catalog, or if you find one online and we don't have access to it, the first thing we would probably do, again, especially if it's an article, is see if another library has it. And most times they do. So at this current moment, you can fill out a request form for an article or an electronic material, and we will try to get it from another library. And it will usually come in PDF formats and within 24 to 48 hours. So it's pretty quick. Additionally, I wanted to point out again under services, request a purchase. So this is something that you feel, and maybe an ebook or an electronic resource of some kind that you feel should be included in our permanent collection. Maybe you need it for a class. Maybe you think it's going to be something that your students really need to use. Whatever the reason, we have set aside funds for patron-driven requests. So please, if you think that we should have something, fill out this form and we will try our very best to purchase it. Again, electronic format is what we're purchasing for at the moment. All right, so going back to the library homepage, I wanted to show you all how to include resources in Blackboard using something called a permalink. So I'm going to type in my search again, which is coronavirus, and it's thinking. All right, again, we have that banner at the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is log in for full access. All right, wonderful. Now we're here, and I'm just going to take the first article that comes up and say I want to include this. Say I want to link to this article in my course on Blackboard so my students can use it. You have a PDF, which is great, which means your students can view the PDF. But really what you want to do, the best practice here, is to click on permalink. What this does is create a permanent link. So your students you can embed this link on Blackboard and your students can click on it and it will bring them right to this page and then they can access the full text of this document. This really is recommended rather than uploading a full document into Blackboard because you run into some copyright issues there. So again, copy and paste this permalink option, not the URL on your browser. This URL will time out, so you want to make sure to use permalink, which can be found down here, and copy and paste that into Blackboard. In most of the databases, so maybe you're coming directly from JSTOR or whatever database that you're using, most of those databases have the permalink option. So again, when in doubt, always choose the permanent link. Again, so this is how the best ways to contact a librarian. So if you or your students have questions, please chat us, email us. You can call us. We are checking our phone messages as well. And that's all I have for you today. So again, here's some contact information for you. Please reach out with any questions. We are here to help you and to help your students and to make sure everyone involved has what they need for success. Thank you all so much.